Everyone wants to call themselves a leader, but very few can handle the pressure that comes with it. Real leadership isn't about the title on your business card. It's about who you are when there's pain, doubt, and chaos. Most people collapse. Most people tap out, and the truth is, you might be doing it without even knowing. Here are 5 brutal signs you're a weak leader. Listen closely. If any of these sound like you, it's time to face the truth and level up. Signs number 1, you avoid hard conversations. Weak leaders fear the truth because the truth forces them to act. They would rather let a problem rot quietly in the corner than point at it and take responsibility. They avoid confronting the lazy team member. They avoid checking the work that's slipping. They avoid calling out the behavior that's poisoning the culture. Instead, they tell themselves stories. It's not my place. They'll figure it out. It's not that bad. But deep down, they know the real reason. They're scared. Scared of conflict. Scared of being disliked. Scared of stepping into discomfort. That fear keeps them silent, and silence is the birthplace of weakness. A leader who won't speak up is a leader who's already surrendered. Hard conversations are the truth-telling moments where respect is built. But weak leaders run from them because they only want peace, even if it's fake. They choose temporary comfort over long-term growth. They let mediocre work slide because correcting it feels awkward. They allow disrespectful behavior because addressing it might create tension. They watch standards drop because enforcing them demands courage. And every time they stay quiet, every time they step back instead of forward, they communicate one message to their team: I'm too weak to lead you. Eventually, the team stops taking them seriously, not because they're cruel or rebellious, but because they see the truth. This person isn't willing to do what leadership requires. A hard conversation isn't about yelling or humiliating someone. It's about clarity. It's about stepping into a moment that feels uncomfortable and refusing to let fear dictate your actions. It means pulling someone aside, looking them in the eye, and telling them exactly where they're falling short. Not because you want to tear them down, but because you believe they can do better. Weak leaders confuse kindness with softness. They think avoiding the conversation is protecting feelings. But in reality, avoiding truth sabotages growth. It keeps people stuck. It keeps teams weak. When you dodge the conversation, you're protecting your comfort, not the person. You're putting your fear above their potential. You choose to be liked instead of respected. You choose silence instead of truth. You choose weakness instead of leadership. And nothing good comes from that. Problems don't magically fix themselves. They spread. They get worse. They infect everything: performance, trust, culture. The longer you avoid speaking up, the more power the problem gains, until it eventually becomes too big to hide. Signs number 2, you chase validation instead of respect. Weak leaders crave approval more than progress. They want people to like them, praise them, applaud them. They make decisions not based on what's right, but on what's comfortable. They study faces more than facts. They ask, will they be upset, instead of, is this the right move? They bend their standards whenever someone pushes back. They allow shortcuts because enforcing discipline might make someone angry. They hand out praise when it isn't earned because they're terrified someone might feel bad. These leaders are addicted to being liked. They think leadership is about keeping everyone happy, but happiness isn't leadership. It's entertainment. And entertainers don't build strong teams. They build fragile ones, teams that crumble under pressure because no one has ever been held to a real standard. When you chase validation, you sacrifice the truth. You avoid calling someone out when they fall short because you don't want to look harsh. You pretend everything is fine because you fear criticism. You water down your expectations so no one feels challenged. But all you're doing is lying, not only to your team, but to yourself. People may smile at you, thank you, or praise you in the moment, but deep down, they won't respect you. They might like you, but they won't trust you to lead them when things get tough. Respect is built on consistency, standards, and honesty. If people know you stand for something, if they know you won't bend under pressure, they might not always like you, but they'll follow you. Respect comes from difficult choices, not from being everyone's favorite. It comes from holding the line when things get uncomfortable. It comes from demanding excellence even when it makes people mad. It comes from telling the truth even when the truth hurts. Weak leaders don't understand that. They think the more they please people, the better their relationships will be. But when a leader always says yes, when a leader avoids disappointment, when a leader prioritizes feelings over standards, they stop being a leader and become a servant to everyone's approval. Their decisions become emotional, inconsistent, soft, and their team eventually sees that this person can be manipulated. When your purpose is to be liked, you lose your voice. You lose your backbone. You lose the respect that real leadership demands. People will take advantage of your need for approval. They will push boundaries, ignore standards, and walk all over you because they know you won't push back. They know you'd rather be liked than respected. They know you'll fold the moment things get uncomfortable. Signs number 3, you break discipline. When no one is watching, weak leaders look disciplined only when eyes are on them. They move with intensity when the spotlight is bright, when people are paying attention, when there's applause waiting for them at the finish line. But the moment the world turns its back, they soften. They start cutting corners. They let standards slide. They tell themselves, no one will notice, as if the only reason to stay disciplined is external validation. These leaders live on performance, not principle. They're motivated by attention, not conviction. They love the credit, but hate the grind. They don't show up because they believe in the mission. They show up because someone is watching. And that's not discipline. That's desperation disguised as effort. Real discipline is invisible. It shows up in the moments no one will ever see. It's built in silence, in the dark hours, when there's no recognition, no reward, no witness. Weak leaders don't operate there. They crumble when accountability disappears. They promise themselves they'll stay consistent, but the moment pressure hits, they fold. They sleep in because no one is keeping score. They skip the difficult tasks because the world won't know. They say they're committed, but commitment is proven in the quiet. If you can't follow your own standards when no one is looking, you never believed in them in the first place. Leadership begins with self-leadership. Before you can demand discipline from others, you must demand it from yourself. Weak leaders shout instructions they don't follow. They tell others to be relentless while they keep a safety net beneath their feet. They act tough on the outside but are soft on the inside. They want excellence from their team but comfort for themselves, and the team always sees it. They might not say anything out loud, but they recognize the inconsistency. They recognize when someone is pretending. They recognize when their leader is all talk, no action. Respect is destroyed the moment the mask slips. When you break discipline in private, it bleeds into your public life. You can't cheat yourself behind closed doors and expect strength when the world demands it. You can't skip the reps alone and expect to lead others through the fire. Every time you choose comfort over discipline, you reinforce weakness. You build a habit of quitting. You teach your mind that your word means nothing, and if your own word means nothing to you, it will mean nothing to the people you lead. Signs number 4, you blame others. Instead of taking responsibility, weak leaders always have someone else to point at. They're quick to say, "It wasn't my fault," or "They messed up," or "The situation wasn't fair." They find comfort in excuses because excuses protect their ego. Admitting responsibility means admitting imperfection, and that terrifies them. They would rather fabricate reasons than face the truth about their own actions. When things go wrong, they hide behind circumstances. When results fall short, they hide behind their team. When expectations are missed, they hide behind timing and luck. They want the credit when things go right, but disappear when things break. This mindset creates a gap between who they claim to be and who they truly are, and that gap exposes the weakness inside them more than any failure ever could. When you refuse to take responsibility, you surrender your power. You hand control of your life, your results, your growth to the world around you. You become a passenger, not a driver. Weak leaders love this role because passengers are never blamed. They can always say it was someone else's steering. But leadership isn't about avoiding blame. It's about owning everything in your domain. If a team member fails, it's your failure to train them. If a plan collapses, it's your failure to guide it. If a mission falls short, it's your failure to prepare. Responsibility isn't about guilt. It's about control. It's the recognition that change starts with you, not the world. Blame keeps you weak because it keeps you blind. The moment you pin the problem on someone else, you stop looking for how you could have improved. You shut down growth. You close the door on progress. You've protected your pride, but you've sacrificed your potential. Weak leaders hate discomfort so much that they would rather remain stagnant than accept they played a part in the failure. They want the illusion of leadership without the weight that comes with it. They want authority, but not accountability. They want respect without responsibility. The strongest leaders understand that responsibility is a mirror. It forces them to confront their flaws, their mistakes, their shortcomings. It forces them to upgrade. Weak leaders run from that mirror. They choose denial instead of truth. They choose to protect their feelings instead of their mission. They would rather live inside a lie than face the simple reality that they could have done better. And because they refuse to own the failure, they never learn, never evolve, never rise above the patterns that keep them small. Signs number 5, you lead with fear, not example. Weak leaders rely on fear because they don't have the strength to inspire. They bark orders instead of showing the way. They intimidate instead of educating. They wield authority like a weapon, hoping people will comply because they're scared, not because they respect the standard or understand the purpose. Fear is a shortcut, a lazy substitute for leadership. It works in the short term, but only until the cracks appear. Teams led by fear follow instructions, but they don't buy in. They don't commit. They don't push beyond the minimum. They comply out of necessity, not out of belief, and that compliance is fragile, breakable the moment the threat or oversight disappears. Leading by fear creates a culture of silence. Weak leaders punish mistakes instead of correcting them, so people hide problems instead of solving them. Ideas die before they're spoken. Creativity dies before it's unleashed. Initiative dies before it can grow. People follow orders without thinking, without taking responsibility, without stepping up, and the leader wonders why results plateau, why loyalty is shallow, why trust is missing. It's because fear can only mask weakness. It can never replace leadership. When your team is afraid, you may control them, but you don't lead them. True leadership comes from example. It's forged in action, in sacrifice, in the willingness to do the hard work first. Leaders who set the standard by what they do, not what they say, earn loyalty, respect, and trust. They work harder, push further, and endure more than anyone else because they understand that leadership is not about privilege. It's about responsibility. When the team sees their leader in the trenches, sweating, struggling, sacrificing, it ignites something in them. They don't follow out of fear. They follow because they want to rise to that level, because they believe in the standard, and because they see it reflected in someone who refuses to ask others to do what they themselves won't do. Weak leaders avoid the hard work of modeling excellence. They hide behind titles, authority, or intimidation instead of stepping up and showing what it takes to achieve results. They demand commitment, but they don't demonstrate it. They demand sacrifice, but they don't make it first. And in doing so, they teach the team that rules are only rules when convenient, that effort is optional, and that leadership is a position, not a responsibility. Fear may force action, but it never creates loyalty, resilience, or strength. Those are built through example, consistency, and the relentless pursuit of doing what's right, even when it hurts, even when no one is watching, and even when it's the hardest path imaginable. Weak leadership is a choice. Every day you decide whether to face the hard truths, take responsibility, and lead by example, or hide behind fear and excuses. Strength, respect, and loyalty aren't given. They're earned through relentless action, discipline, and courage. The question is simple: who are you willing to be today?